Hey guys, it's Jessica and I am back to share a tutorial on how I make my recipe keeper journals. Um, if you haven't seen those before, I'll post a link to one of the shares, or I think I've maybe done 2 videos on them. I'll post a link to those videos so you can see what I'm talking about, but this was my most requested tutorial, so I am happy to share this with you. This is now going to be the third time I've recorded this since you guys asked for it, and I'm really hoping this one does not have any sort of corruption to it. And again, I do apologize for being out for so long. I ended up going on a girls trip, came back really sick, was sick for quite a while, ended up going on another girls trip to Arizona. While I was there, I was taking my meds for bronchitis, got back, and then got back into the swing of things of like soccer all the time and lacrosse all the time and working and just being a mom and trying to take care of a household, plus still having a cough that wouldn't go away. But I'm happy to say that it's finally gone away. I do still have it a little bit, but nowhere near what it was, to the point where I can now actually talk and laugh without coughing. So here's to hoping this tutorial comes through and I don't have any sort of coughing while I'm doing it. So in order to make the recipe journal keepers, or the recipe kernels, whatever you want to call them, I just call it that because it's easier to say, you are going to need a clear vinyl sleeve that I got from clearbags.com. And these ones, I will see if I can find the link to it. Like, this is not an affiliate link, so I don't get anything, any commission or anything from it, but I definitely will see if I can find these exact ones on their website. So from edge to edge, they measure 11 3/4 by right about 7 7/8 or so. So I think these are the biggest, they call them wallets. I think these are the biggest vinyl wallets they have, but I'm not positive. So you'll need one of those. You will need 2 5x7 notebooks, and I get these as a 2-pack from Walmart, and they're like $1. They might be like $1.98 for the 2-pack, and they are 5x7 composition notebooks. Then you will need a photo album from Dollar Tree, and these are $1.25 now, and mine actually holds 24 photos on the inside. I do know that you used to be able to get these from Walmart. I'm not sure if you still can, but anything similar to this that you can find that holds 4x6 is what you'll need. And then I have the measurements here for you, and I will put them in the description of this video. For our cover, you will need 1 sheet of paper that measures 11 1/4 by 7 1/2. And then you will need, for the notebook covers, you will need 4 in order to cover the 2 notebooks you have. So 4 pieces that measure 4 1/2 by 7, and then 4 pieces that measure 5 by 7. And the difference is because I don't cover all of this spine right here. I like some of it showing, like you see right here. But on the inside, you don't have that option. So this inside cover is a full 5x7, and this is the one where I do 4 1/2 by 7. And then you will need some eyelets if you want to set your holes that we're going to end up punching. And you will obviously need some glue, some scissors, a corner rounder, a crocodile, and some sort of tab punch if you want to provide tabs with your recipe journal / keeper. And that should be it. So I thought I would share that I tend to like to work in bulk, because in my mind, if I'm working with a paper collection and I'm already cutting, then I might as well just do it, you know, ×4, ×5, whatever the case may be. So I am working with this collection here called Roll With It by Carta Bella. And this one has, let me see, 12 papers, but I know that one or two of them have cut aparts. So I'll say 10 sheets in this kit plus a sticker sheet. Excuse me. So I like to try and guesstimate, like, okay, I think I can probably get 4 full recipe journals from this collection. So I will cut all of my covers first, and then I will cut all of my notebook covers and get everything done that way. So then I can see how much paper I truly have left and see if I can get another one out of the collection. But what I will say is that in order to stretch this paper, because Carta Bella is really nice paper, and let's face it, it's expensive, I use supplemental paper for the insides. So I'll use like a cheaper paper, but something that matches the collection. So then that way I'm not wasting the pretty paper on the inside, but just, you know, something that we're still covering the inside, but not wasting the more expensive paper. So that is something to keep in mind, and that is something I do in order to stretch the nice paper a little bit more. So the first thing you're going to do is pick the paper you want for your cover, and it is cut to, let me find my post-it note. It is cut to 11 1/4 by 7 1/2, and I've already cut it. And because the corners are rounded on this vinyl wallet, then I go ahead and round mine as well. And because I know I'm going to end up scoring this, because my books and the actual recipe keeper that go inside are pretty like fat right here, pretty wide. So let's see, it's almost a little over 1 1/4 inches wide. So I know that I'm going to have a wider spine here in order to get all of this to fit in here. So the one thing I do is I fold this in half. And then I will score in 1/2 inch on either side of my middle score line here. And that will give me a full inch or a little bit over an inch of a spine there with a little bit of wiggle room. Excuse me. So if here is my middle and I'm right at about 5 3/4, then I'm gonna go over to 6 1/4 and score that there. And then I think I'll end up having to go to 5 1/4. Let's make sure. No, I don't know if that's right. Let me double check here. So if I'm at 5 3/4 and I want to go back 1/2 inch. Okay, yeah, that is right. Okay. So now I'm just going to fold on those score lines, and now I know that my spine is going to be big enough to hold those books in and give me room to grow. So now that I have my score lines decided and all of that, this is where I will add my cover decoration. And I do this once I have everything folded and scored, so that way I'm not like off-centered once we have all the score lines in. So I'm just going to take my art glitter glue here and glue this down. So now you'll notice that I'm kind of keeping this minimal, and the reason I'm doing that is because I'm turning these into shakers. You don't have to do that. You can do whatever you want, and you can go, you know, a little bit more decoration with just the paper or punches or ribbon or whatever, but just keep in mind that it does have to fit into this. And there is, I mean, a decent amount of room in here, so you definitely can have it be more 3D, but it's not, you know, a ton of space. So what we're going to do is we're going to add this in, And the easiest way I have found to add it is to slide one side in and then turn it upside down and push this side down. Before I do that, I did want to say that if you are wanting to turn this into a shaker, at this point, this is where you will add your shaker bits. So you just kind of pull it away from the cover, drop your shaker bits in there, and then you are going to want to sew a line down the side of the book here, and that will ensure that it stays, the shaker bits stay inside. But one thing you'll want to do is make sure you are not, make sure that you're not sewing on your score line, because that will kind of, like, I don't know if it'll mess up the book, but I just would stay away from that. So I would go a little bit inside of your score line and sew right there. That being said, I have been adding some faux leather spines to mine. So in order to do that, if this is something that you're interested in, I cut it to 2 1/4 by 7. And I use, let's see, actually I have it right here. I use this, this is 1/8 inch, or it's 1/4. I think it's 1/4. Let me double check, because I just bought some. Yeah, this is 1/4. I take my faux leather, so like, let's say I was going to add a spine to this one, and this is a faux leather sheet that I got from Hobby Lobby that unfortunately they don't sell anymore. But if you cut it down to 2 1/4 by 7, actually this might be 7 1/2. Sorry guys, I want to make sure I'm not telling you wrong. No, it is 7. Okay. So what I do to keep it secure when I want to go up to the sewing machine is I do double-sided tape around the edges of my 2 1/4 by 7, take it off, and then adhere it down, and then go up and sew around it. So that way it stays in place. I know exactly where I want it, and it makes my life easier. But I am not going to go through the shaker process on this video, so let's just go ahead and add this back in. So these do get a little bit tricky trying to get in there. And then you're just going to kind of work its way down. Okay, so now that we have that in there, this is what our cover looks like. And then now we have our score lines in there, and we have a nice spine so we can add in our notebooks. And at this point you can definitely fold on your score lines again, so that way the actual vinyl that we're working with, it will start creasing as well. Okay, and then we are going to work on our notebooks. So I already have one done, and I was going to do one on camera. One thing to make sure of, is I cannot tell you how many times I've done this, is make sure you have the notebook facing the right direction before you glue down your directional paper. I can't tell you how many times I've glued my paper upside down. So I am going to be using this as the cover. And I like to round my corners. So another thing I have found out using these notebooks is that they're supposed to be 5 by 7, but they tend not to be a true 5 by 7. So if I cut my paper to 5 by 7, I've had it where it's too short, I've had it where it overhangs, and I've had it where it's right on. So it's hard telling which ones you're gonna get. So I just go with the 4 1/2 by 7, and if I need to trim it, I will trim it. So I just added some glue, and what I like to do is I like to match corner to corner. So then that way I am ensuring that I'm getting my edges covered, because I already know that I don't want to cover all of this black spine because I like the way it looks. If you wanted to cover this whole black spine, then I would cut your paper to 5 by 7 and then trim it down if you needed to. So now we're going to do the back. And this time we're gonna do the opposite corners. And we're just gonna glue that down. Okay. Now at this point, I like to open up the covers and make sure I don't have overhang. And you can see I do have a little bit, I don't know if you can see it right there on the side, and I have a little bit on the cover here, even though I matched my corners. And on this back one, it's perfectly fine. So that's what I mean when I say that these books are a little bit funky in the fact that they don't always, they're not true to size. So I just like to take my scissors and just trim off the little bit that's there. You could always just leave it if this is something that you're making for yourself and it doesn't really bother you. Like if this book was for me, I would leave it because it doesn't bother me at all. But if you are wanting to sell these and make sure there is no overhang, then I would trim them down. So now I'm going to take my 2 pieces of 5x7 because like I said, we don't have a spine to account for on the inside of here. So, and I do like to do the corner trick again where I round them and then match them up. So this is a little bit trickier to get on the inside because you are now having to go down the full 5 inches down, and that 5 inches starts to run into where the book is sewn in. So you just kind of have to finesse it a little bit and it fits perfectly. I do like to turn it over and make sure that I don't have overhang. And once again, I do have overhang even though I don't have enough room to go down more. So that tells me, again, it's, excuse me, it's an interesting size notebook. Or I could be just a really horrible trimmer with my paper trimmer. That's totally possible too. Sorry. Okay. Okay. And now we are going to do the back cover. One thing you could do also is if you don't want to worry about the corners and making sure they all match, you could just glue this in and then just trim the corners with your scissors, especially if you don't have a corner rounder. Like there's no real need to go out and buy one if you just have a pair of scissors, especially because these notebooks will serve as a guide for you to just round those corners. The nice thing about this project is that it's not very expensive to make because you're in it like $2 for the 2-pack of notebooks, $1.25 for the recipe keeper. The vinyl sleeves, I cannot tell you how much I paid for them, but I do know that I had to buy a big pack of them, which is why I have so many, and they don't sell them in a smaller pack. So I want to say the vinyl sleeves were probably 40 or 50 bucks. But that being said, I've been able to do a lot of projects with them. But if you like come down to the individual cost of each one, I don't think it was more than a few dollars. Obviously, then you have the cost of the paper. The most expensive thing about this is the time that goes into it. So these are a great way to use up your paper, and you know, if you want to make a gift for someone, it would be really nice and usable. So that is it for our notebooks. And then all you have to do is get your 4x6 photo sleeves and start adding in paper, recipe cards, or index cards. I like to do a combination of the 3 and primarily stick to recipe cards and index cards. And I'll only add the paper if I have like leftover scraps. But I also really like to use the scraps for, let me find one here, the tab punch. So I will just take the scraps that I have in a pile and go through and just punch out all of the scraps for these tabs. And then I like to put, 10 to 12 tabs with each book, so then that way they can tab out their book and use it how they want. So I have unfortunately run out of elastic, so I cannot show you how to string this, but if you've ever strung a traveler's notebook, then it's the exact same process, and there are so many videos out there on how to do it. I actually think I have a video on how I did it as well, so I will see if I can find that and link that down below. But all you're going to do is you can add eyelets or not add eyelets, because these holes are going through vinyl, and mine happens to be going through faux leather as well. So the likelihood of these holes tearing is probably not very high, but I still like to add eyelets because I like the way that it looks. I think it makes it look more finished. So you're going to string it, and then you're going to add your middle section here, which is just going to be basically a really big loop of elastic tied in a knot with the ends. So then that way you have a closure, and then you're just going to string them in and add them to your book. At that point, you can, make a beaded dangle. You can make all sorts of altered paper clips, whatever you want to make this your own finished product. So I hope this helps you guys. I hope I have answered all of the questions that you may have had. If I didn't answer them, please let me know, and I will definitely answer them in the comments down below. And thank you guys so much for being here. I'll catch you on the next video.